live. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Corona Geek On Air episode. What is this, 3? Have we actually have 3 episodes up?
Yay!
I'm Charles McKeever, and I'm joined here with Brian Burton and Toff Ward. Say, hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good.
Everybody doing okay on this holiday day?
Absolutely. It's Labor Day, so we're laboring heavy.
We're laboring.
One of our clients text messaged us earlier, and I said, I hope that you are having fun by the pool, and they actually sent me a picture of their feet by the pool. I was like, wow, I nailed that. Awesome. All right, well, today is, if you don't know, if you haven't been here before, thanks for joining us, and this is a on-air Google Hangout that covers everything that has to do with mobile development using the Corona SDK. If you're not familiar with Corona, why the hell you're here? No, if you're not familiar with Corona, you can go over to coronalabs.com and check out everything that they have over there. They've got a lot of great documentation, some great forums for support, and a lot of reasons why you should be using the platform to build cross-platform mobile applications. So, Toff, if you would, tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. Let's walk you through here real quick. As always, we go through the latest build, give you a couple little things on that one. We've got newbie questions. Okay, I have newbie questions. I always have newbie questions. So we're going to learn a little bit about that because I got some questions about Lua. Then we're going to talk about some new iOS features, an app review with ninjas. Can you really have an app review without ninjas anyway? Then we're going to talk about Galaxy Note 2 was released, and a little bit about an API breakdown.
Awesome.
Want to kick it off with the build notes?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go through that real quick because build 894 has some exciting things in it, I think. They added a native new WebView API for Android. So some people, want to see a little bit more build up on the Android side of the house, and apparently this was already in iOS, and now it's available for Android, which is pretty exciting.
Well, and let's mention too that Build 894 is a public release, not just simply available to the subscribers. This is something that's being released as part of Corona Labs' emphasis on trying to every few months get a new public release out there that has all the bug fixes, all these new additions like the native WebView, which is something I'm very excited about. The new WebView that's available now for Android and iOS allows us to do kind of a mixture of HTML5 and Corona development. So very exciting release there.
Very cool. That's awesome. I didn't know that was also available to just everybody, to the general public. That's great. They also upgraded the Physics Box2D library to 2.2.1, which I think is that the most current? I think
that's the most current, and that's primarily just some bug fixes.
Okay. I know I had read someplace where they were what was it? Maybe I'm crossing out with the Lua. Didn't they recently update it to the Lua 5.1 as well? Or were they working on that? Do you remember that? Am I just talking out of turn there? I know that...
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
It seems like I read that someplace. I'll have to go back and check that out. But I specifically remember it being like this. There were reasons why they hadn't gone to 5.1 because it was such a big jump to the next version, and I thought I had seen something where they'd said that, and I was like, oh, cool, they made that leap. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong. It's happened before. And so they also have the Mac Simulator requires OS X 10.7 and later now. So we talked about that last time where Corona Labs is going to go a little heavier on the Apple side of things and say, okay, you've got to be kind of at least one version back on your operating system for them to be able to support that, because Apple is pushing so hard to get things, to keep things up to date, that they just can't stay they can't stay up to date forever. Can't backward compatible forever, I guess is the better term.
Which
right. And Corona will still go ahead, Toff.
No, I was about to say that I just find that highly entertaining that the mobile app development can get away with it, but none of the web browsers can. I can still use the center tag on a website. I mean, seriously, it is so deprecated. It's funny, but it still works, and I feel heartfelt sympathy for anybody who builds a new browser and goes, "Wait a minute, we have to support what?"
Yeah, and it's
exactly.
well, yeah, and can you imagine? I mean, the Corona Labs guys trying to support all those different versions of operating systems, the changes between, and then and still at the same time maintain a development schedule for the next thing that's coming out. I mean, it would be crazy. So they also added object.alpha property support for native fields such as text fields, text boxes, and WebViews. Which I think that's pretty cool. So that's something new for Android. Sorry, that's for Android specifically. So we did have a comment on the Corona Geek website where somebody was saying that there were gaps in the widgets for Android. Brian, do you think that's true?
The last time I checked, we were missing some of the native CSS3 style sheets for Android. I haven't checked on that recently. This last time I looked at it was a couple of months ago.
Okay.
But yeah, at that time it was just iOS styling.
Okay. So it'd probably be a good idea if you haven't checked that out in a while to go look and see what has been updated. Because the person who left I can't remember the name of the person who left the comment on the site, that could be updated. I didn't know for sure, so I couldn't tell whether it was or wasn't. All right, so basically there's too many features in the release to mention. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the release notes so that people can go check out the build notes for 8.94 themselves and see everything that's in there. But those were the few of the ones that we wanted to highlight for the most part. Now, usually we go through Corona announcements at this point, kind of highlight the things that Corona is doing. I'm going to save a little bit of that for the blog highlights because there wasn't any major announcements this week, I don't think, unless Brian, Toff, unless you guys want to throw in something I missed.
Didn't see anything. It's holiday weekend, so
I'm sure they're still chained to their desks. It's just not on the website. But there were some interesting things, and we'll cover that when we get to the blog highlights. So let's cover newbie questions.
Sure. Really and truly, one of the things that made me nervous about going to Corona is here's a new language to learn. And, you've done ASP, JSP, PHP, a little bit of Java, a little bit of .NET, a little bit of everything. So, it's one of those things you go, a new syntax, all right, well, how do I do a loop in this one? I mean, it's just because there's always a semicolon missing or in the wrong spot or, oh, wait a minute, they don't use semicolons here. Oh, great. So now you go to Corona and they say, hey, we use Lua. And I don't know Lua. I haven't done Lua. Okay. So being a newbie to Lua in general, can you give me some tips? Can you give me a little more explanation about what does that really mean? What's kind of the power? How does this work?
Brian, I'm gonna pass that one to you.
Well, first of all, Lua is one of the easiest scripting languages that I think you can learn. If you've ever worked with JavaScript, if you've ever worked with PHP, Python, any of those other programming languages, once you get past the minor syntax changes, Lua is ready to go for you. It's simple, it's quick. There's a few nuances in terminology, such as the term table for array, but it's got some very powerful features as well, like the closure. The closure is a self-contained function that can be passed. And I talk about it in chapter 16 of my book, if you're interested. So a little plug right there for that. Closures are incredibly powerful, but that's not something you're going to get to until you're an advanced programmer.
Right,
There's not a need for it. Chapter 16, that's right. It's the advanced.
Get past all those chapters first.
Now,
don't skip the first 15 chapters. You need that.
Foundational information. So with that, I mean, there's okay. You brought it up, so I'm gonna bring it out full tilt. Your book covers building Corona apps, okay? But it's not a manual for Corona. I mean, for Lua itself. So, how much Lua do I need to learn? I mean, should I go buy a book on Lua, or do I just need to, read your book and then I'll have 90% of what I need?
It depends on what level of coder you're going to be.
Okay.
If you're getting into Corona and you're going to go full tilt, be a professional app developer, getting the reference to Corona or to Lua is going to be a good idea, just because you're going to be doing that. But there's free websites out there. The version 1 of the manual is out on the web for free. You can just look things up. I use it all the time, but I also have the book. So, I jump back and forth depending on if I'm on the road or close to a computer or what the case is. Let's face it, if you're a professional coder, Google is your friend. You get an error message, you do a search on it, and you're going to find, hopefully, what you need. So, yeah, in my opinion, and I wrote the book for students. So the idea was that you could buy this book, learn the basics of Corona, which also teaches you Lua at the same time, and you'll be set to go.
Okay. So and that's kind of what I thought too. Is that when I went through your book, I got the idea that I could build an app, I could build a game. I got a lot of Lua out of it. But if I wanted to go and build my own custom, I don't know, custom graphics or custom something that was, like you say, something that was completely different, totally new, not covered in a book someplace, then I would probably need Lua so I could dig into the real nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, when I was covering closures in the book, I had to get the Lua book out to make sure that I had the concept and was covering the information the way it should be covered. Mm-hmm. And it was invaluable in that. But that, again, is an advanced topic. That's not something you're going to be doing right off the bat unless you've got a very complex app planned.
Right. Okay. So that's a fair assessment. And that's the second time I've heard that. I mean, I think I asked that question once before at a meeting, at the December meeting last year, when Walter was giving his presentation, and basically the whole table was like, "Oh yeah, you need to learn Lua." I mean, but the guys that are there weren't me. They were talking X and Y coordinates, and they were down in the nuts and bolts with it in the sidebar conversations. So. But I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of like, well, there's lots of things that I'd like to know. So I'm feeling like I probably will invest in a book at some point just to be able to explore the language a whole other. Yeah, to go a step further, exactly. Okay, so that's good. So let's move on to then the one thing that I found kind of challenging when I first started Corona, and that was how to find the terminal window. How do you find the terminal window?
Yeah, I know that one, because essentially the habit is to go find that nice orange button and you go, click, and it starts. Okay, we're good. I got the simulator. Well, when an example says, we'll just echo this out and it'll show up in the terminal. Well, hang on, I got the simulator running. Where's that terminal again?
Yeah, my first inclination was to go and bring up the console window for the Mac, And then I was like, well, why? How come nothing's coming out on the console window? Because that's not the terminal.
Well, and that's an important distinction to make. Are you developing on the Mac or are you developing on the PC?
That explains a lot more.
Yeah, on the Macintosh, when you launch the terminal, it will launch the simulator. So what I've done on my dock on my Mac is I put the terminal on my dock instead of the simulator.
Yeah.
So that simplifies that process.
Right.
So it is a little confusing for someone, especially if you're going back and forth or you're trying to read the forums, figuring out where the terminal is. If you're on a Mac, put the terminal in your dock instead of the simulator. If you're on the PC, you can launch the simulator and it'll launch the terminal.
That's a good point. Now, is there any reason why you wouldn't want? I mean, you would only want the simulator and not the terminal?
I rely on the terminal so heavily, I can't imagine. You know, that's where all your errors show up. That's where all of your information that for debugging is at. So
I'm going to go.
That's where I send myself tips and hints. I need my terminal.
Well, so I'm going to go a step further and say, hey, Corona guys, please put a big button on the
Mac install.
The Mac, well, when it comes up, it's got that little panel and it says, new project, and it has all the different buttons. Put a terminal button there, or just remove the option to launch the simulator without the terminal. I don't know.
Or have the simulator launch the terminal so it'll launch the simulator. Yes.
Because that was one of the first things I was like, because all the tutorials say, do this, print this to the terminal. Just, that's besides hello world, that's like the second thing you do. So, so there you go. There's the tip of the day is to bring up the console or the terminal and it's actually in the folder with the Corona simulator, right? So
yes,
okay.
It's under your Corona Labs folder. You'll find Corona Terminal, not Terminal. That's a different thing completely.
Right.
We need Corona Terminal, not Terminal.
Right. Not the Mac terminal, but the Corona terminal. So that is a great place. Putting in all your debug messages, like you said, putting in all your messages to yourself or values that you want to see that aren't the user's not going to see. So if you don't know what we're talking about, it's an invaluable resource. All right, so let's move on to Corona blog highlights. Does anybody remember what this is about?
iOS 6?
I do. So basically I thought this was an interesting post Walter put out, and it talks about, I'm going to bring it up here so I can have some side notes here. It talks about the fact that iOS 6 is coming, okay? But as a developer, you're bound by a non-disclosure agreement to not disclose any of the new features or talk about the things that the general public shouldn't know. So you might be privy to information that you don't want to spill. Spoiler alert. Well, how does Corona Labs, how do they then give information to developers for the next iteration without giving them, without violating that non-disclosure agreement? So what they're going to try to do is they're basically going to say you can get the next the next build, the advanced developer build, if you're a registered developer. If you have a not even a registered developer, if you have a Apple developer license. That way you're bound by the same NDA that Corona Labs is bound by, and therefore everybody's playing in the same sandbox. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. So they're talking about it's only a couple of weeks before we're not even weeks, days, right? We're what? Yeah. This is the second. We're like 10 days or something before the expected launch of iOS 5 or iPhone 5 and iOS 6. So anyway, I thought that was interesting.
You want to talk about ninjas?
Let's talk about ninjas. So right. You have the app up there? Can you bring it up?
No, I don't have the app.
In the iTunes store, can you bring it up?
Oh, in the iTunes store.
Yeah. I'll talk about it while I'll song and dance while you bring it up.
Not a problem. Tap,
So,
tap.
so GoNinja is a side scroller tap to jump. Well, they're all tap to do something, right? Tap to jump game where you essentially are trying to what do you call it? Get revenge? Not revenge. What is it? Vindicate your sensei's been killed or something like that, and you're trying to go after the bad guys. So everything scrolls to the left, and you tap to jump, but you have to avoid. Here, let me click on this here. There we go. See the screen. So you have to avoid other players. So yeah, there's mines. There's little dummy. Like I don't know what do you call those things in kung fu? Not the scarecrows, but the little you know what I'm saying? The human forms. So,
I couldn't tell you.
Yep, I'm sure there's a word for it. Anyway, you have to avoid you have to avoid those things, or you die. And as you progress, it becomes the game becomes faster and faster and faster, and it becomes harder and harder to do. But it's actually very entertaining, a lot of fun. The graphics are very well done. There's a lot of moving parts, so so a lot of intricacies there. The tutorial is very simple. When you first get started, the game opens up. It explains to you what's going on. It's got like a little intro movie, kind of tells you what the backstory is. So very engaging in that way, and the navigation is really very easy to navigate. So I thought, for the most part, again, this is a Corona game. You can get it on the iPad or your iPhone, and I like it. It's a keeper. I let the kids play it, and they like it a lot. And it's been downloaded 393 times, and seems to
ratings.
Have really good ratings.
Actually tell you a lot about this game.
Yeah.
I mean, 273 people say this is awesome, and 7 people say I don't like it.
Those people are afraid of clowns and ninjas.
Oh, here's one right here. Great art and good controls, but the game suffers from lag.
Oh.
Okay. He doesn't actually tell you what he's playing on.
Yeah, that could be his device.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always read these to find that out.
Well, it doesn't work on my iPhone 3. I can't figure out why.
And I could see that. I mean, I could see that it's got I think there's clouds moving, and there's houses moving, and there's object on the ground moving, and you're jumping like 2 and 3 levels high, because you can jump from the ground up to the rooftop, up to another rooftop. So there's all this stuff going on, and I could see how it would lag on an iPhone 3 or maybe the original iPhone.
Well, I mean, like, here's the guy right here who says, so many glitches, fix them already. Everyone who isn't cross-eyed is complaining. No, actually, everybody's giving it 5 stars.
Right, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with it. I've got the 2nd generation iPad, and I've got the iPhone 4. So it's relatively new hardware, but...
4 or 4S?
I have the 4, the iPhone 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you're not even latest and greatest, and yet no issues. Okay.
No. So, but I'm not on 3GS or anything like that. So maybe it, I don't know. Maybe it lags on that. I don't know. But it's a good game. Very solid. Very good. Lots of fun. And there's even, if you can see there on the left-hand side of that screen there's like a little fuse. There's like after you have a certain amount of actions, you can get a bomb that you can use to blow up people as you're moving along, and things like that. So it's got there's lots of stuff to focus on, and then there's these little extra bits that you can bring into it. So
what are the in-app purchases? I'm always leery about getting something for the kids if there's an in-app purchase, because usually it means that there's something you can't do until you pay.
I honestly didn't. I didn't go that far to figure out what the in-app purchases were. I probably should have. Let's see if I have.
Well, I mean, did it stop you from playing? Is the question.
Oh no, absolutely. That was a good point. No, it did not stop me from playing. And let's see if I can bring it up here. Do I want to? And here's a reminder. So here's the reminder to rate the app. Remind me later. Upgrades. Let's see what the upgrades are. Looks like I can unlock. I can run 20% faster. I can get a different visor, like you have a head grill that you can get. You can run 70% faster. You can jump, extra jumps, double jump, so stuff like that. So you can play the game without any problems, just from a base. But if you want to supercharge it and do some extra cool stuff or trick out the costume, you can do that.
Cool.
Which I know, I know Max, you know, he's 12 and he plays Xbox, and he'll spend, you know, he'll ask me for Xbox credits to buy clothing for his avatar.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the scariest thing that will ever happen to you as an adult is when your children come and ask for the credit card. It's...
Yeah, and he's, you know, and he's dressing up something that doesn't even exist. You know,
digital.
Like at least action figures, or you know, so it's but you know, from a developer standpoint, I mean that's awesome, because there's you have no actual physical overhead or you know, inventory or anything, so that's great. Great model, I think. I can't wait to get some of that. All right. So let's talk about device news. We posted a blog post on Corona Geek about Walter's notes on iPhone 5 and Corona. And so basically, if you go over there to the home page, you'll see, and I'll put a link in the show notes, but basically we posted on what does the iPhone 5, the new size, the 4-inch screen, what is that going to mean to Corona developers? And so Walter had some things to say about that in the latest newsletter, and it's pretty interesting, so go check that out. Like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes. The Galaxy Note 2 is out. Anybody excited about that besides me?
The one thing I want with that is the little SD card, or the slot. That was just awesome to go, okay, here's my itty-bitty floppy that I can now put it, because that's really what it is. It's a new floppy. I mean, really, 64 gig, bam! I got an iPhone that basically, when you're done, I had a client ask me, she's like, how do I upgrade my iPad memory? Sell it and buy a new one. that's your opportunity.
Yeah. Everybody's a little different on that. I don't particularly. I like the upgradability. You know, always options are always good, but I haven't run into an issue with the iPad. Of course, I went for the 64 gig model. But you know, but that's just storage memory, because like Toff, you and I talked about this. There's, you know, memory is not memory. There's RAM, and then there's memory for storage. Mm-hmm. So not exactly the same thing. And I know on the iPad, you know, I can get Dropbox and I can have as much storage as I want as long as I have an internet connection. So, but I think it's a great device. I like the screen size. You know, I think that, and for everybody who's concerned about the thing being too big to operate with one hand, on the Galaxy Note 2, they actually put an option in there where you can make the keyboard favor one side or the other. So it'll actually slide over to one side, so you can still, you know, use it with one thumb if you wanted to. So I thought that was pretty cool. It comes with Jelly Bean, which is, you know, the latest and greatest Android operating system. So I think it's going to be pretty neat. And they also, I don't know if you saw or not, but they had the video, the picture-in-picture, the video where you can play the video while you're doing something else. But now they have it to where you can pinch it and resize it.
Really? Yeah,
which I thought was uber cool. So I could see this as a device that a lot of people are going to want. I think personally, I don't know. I'm kind of eyeballing one myself. Whenever they come out, I don't know. We don't have a release date as when they're going to come out, but. Any thoughts, anybody?
I'm just impressed with the whole quad core.
Oh yeah. Well,
itty bitty thing, quad core. Really?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to have the same processor or thereabouts as the S3, the Galaxy S3.
It's a quad-core 1.6 Cortex A9, so I don't know.
Somebody, I read somewhere where they said it was overclocked, so I don't know if that's because it's just a bigger screen and it needs more horsepower to do what it does.
It's just a jump to the left.
Don't start that song in my head, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I
said
think
overclocked.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So anyway, I'll put a link to some notes on that because it's a pretty interesting device, and there's some good hands-on videos out there that show what it can do. I think that it's going to be one of those devices that, we've had the whole patent wars with Apple and Samsung, and I really feel like that, the Note and the Note 2 are departures from what Apple's doing. So, now they're getting to that point where maybe there was some copying, maybe there was some overlap, but now they're stepping off and doing their own thing. And I think that, that's going to be a device that we're going to need to watch. So I could see developing apps for that because it's got this big, huge, beautiful, real estate to work with. Okay, so let's talk about the the API spotlight. Let's spotlight something in the API here. Well, this is actually spotlighting the whole API, kind of, sort of. Toff, can you bring up the
Sure.
Documentation? I think we kind of talked about this once before, but I kind of wanted to go back and in the first episode we touched on it, but I kind of wanted to go back and emphasize something that's there that you may not necessarily notice, and that is that the documentation now, and it may have been like this before, but I think it's even better now. It's broken up into libraries, events, and types. And if you look at the documentation from top to bottom, let me pull that up on the screen. If you look at the documentation from top to bottom, it's actually has column headings there: libraries, events, and types.
Ah, you're right. It did change.
Yeah. See, now which to me, it's a little thing. It's such a little thing, but we read from left to right. So our tendency is to go, adds, accelerometer, array, but those are really three distinct columns. And I would actually like to see, personally, like the events column be like a light gray or something, just to emphasize the fact that there are three separate columns. Because once you kind of latch onto that, it makes it so much easier to find something. Because then then you're like, okay, well, is this an event? Yes, it is. I mean, and to some degree, the events are kind of self-describing because every event says event.token, event.name, event.something, right? But that's not as obvious, I don't think, in the other columns.
True.
Brian,
I can see that.
You got any thoughts on that? Was it like that before? Do you remember?
No, I think that's been a minor update to the whole system. So
yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's a subtle one, but it's something I thought was important enough to come back around and highlight.
They had the division before, but I don't think they had it into the clear columns like they do now.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I would like to see just. It's so trivial. It's funny, but just if that middle column was a different color or something, it would be blindingly obvious, I think, at that point that, oh, this is a column and that's a column and that's a column. But anyway, so I want to bring that back around and kind of highlight that. It's not necessarily a specific thing of the API, but just to say that the documentation has been updated. It is very clear. And take note of that because now it just makes everything fall into place. It's a whole lot easier to find things because now it's either a library, an event, or a type. Okay. Anybody got anything else that they want to share? Any last minutes? Brian, you got anything?
Well, I think we need to clarify for anybody that is joining us and watching us, wondering who we really are. let's remind them that we are not Corona Labs employees. We are all ambassadors, and we're here because we like the Corona product.
Mm-hmm.
And what we can do with it, and the ability to make apps. This is not a we get a little bit of swag. We get a coffee mug and a T-shirt, but that's it. So,
wait a minute. Who got swag? I didn't get any swag. Does that mean I'm just a groupie? Is that just...
Yes. Toff's our groupie.
I'll fax you something.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We are the community. We're part of the community. We are outside looking in, just like everybody else. So, but of course, that being said, Brian, you have written a book on beginning Corona, mobile app development with Corona. So that gives you some good insight into the platform and using it as a development tool. And so Toff and I are really just we are truly the groupies.
Newbie developers, we're great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so thanks everybody for being here with us. This is our third episode. If you don't know already, you can join us every Monday at 2 p.m. Central Time. Come here and hang out with us, ask questions. If you haven't seen the previous two episodes, you can catch those over at coronageek.com, or you can find us on YouTube on our Corona Geek channel. You can also find us on Google+, which hopefully is at the bottom of this video or is in the show notes. And then you can also find us on Facebook. So if you have any questions, send those to questions@coronageek.com, and we'll try to feature those on one of the upcoming episodes. So there's really not a reason why you shouldn't be talking to us, apart from the fact that, one of us looks funny or has totems on there. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait, who? Wait. All right. That's it. That's all we have for this week. So join us next week. We'll be right back here talking Corona SDK.
Take it easy.
Bye.